Well, hello friends. We have had so many days consistently above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and that means really the garden work can begin in full swing. So usually you want to wait till it's 50 degrees or more for at least 3 consecutive days, just to make sure pollinators are waking up, to make sure everything kind of had its winter slumber and is now happy and healthy back in the environment, hopefully. You know, we plant gardens for beauty. We also do it to foster a healthy ecosystem, maybe help the local ecosystem, hopefully. And part of that is doing things at the right time. And I will say every year brings its own set of differences in what is the right time. This year has been no different. So we, in March, can go back and forth a lot. That can be very normal. Sometimes I don't even clean flower beds out in March. It can be April. But this year posed something really unique. We were really in a snow drought since December. January, February, no snow. March comes, no snow. All of a sudden, kind of later March, we have a blizzard. And then after a couple days after that blizzard, we had 80 degrees, then 90 degrees. And then it kept getting warmer and warmer, and it has stayed really warm. Not quite that warm, it's gone back to more seasonal, around in the 50s. So it's been very warm for a while, but you have to adjust your gardening to go with what the year is bringing. And so that means perennials have really been pushing out. They're getting quite a bit of growth. Bulbs really pushing out, getting growth. So it's definitely time to clean out your flower beds. But you know, each person can make that decision for themselves. So today we're focusing on, if you remember, this new flower bed I put in around all these trees that I planted with you last year. So this is in a new area of my pathway that has a mix of perennials. They're in mass plantings, they fill in. And I designed these beds. You know, the reason I try to design beds is so I can manage them on my own. I'm one person, and I have a lot of garden beds. And someone's right beside me here, Kip. Kip wants to, you can make a debut and say hi, but really what he wants is his Frisbee. That's what we do when we're outside, and it's no different when you guys are here. So I designed these beds really to do chop and drop. And other than the trees, everything within these beds, I'm gonna show you here a close-up, is dormant right now, or it dies back to the ground. It's perennials that die back to the ground. And I can go over them with a push mower that self-mulches. All the debris, chops it up, leaves it there. So it is a compost, it is a mulch, it is self-feeding. And it really makes it so I do a little bit of work now, and then really no work the rest of the year. So let's really go over this area. So if you remember, the path I extended, it's now going on 2 years. This will be the second full year with it. And I extended it coming down here. It has a bump out where I put a table. And last year's when I planted all of these trees that I'm gonna keep clipped into a living hedge, really. And then underneath I planted all of these perennials, which right now, they don't look that great, right? But the beauty of where this is, while I like a mix of evergreens in certain areas, you can see up above, I have a lot of boxwood for structure. These beds out in this area, they're out in the middle of, like, away from the house during the winter. So you don't really see them. They don't need to have winter interest, which I'll be the first person to say, though, winter interest can come in many forms. After the blizzard, there was drifts of snow. Before that, they looked really good all through the winter. Things like Carl Forster, you know, ornamental grasses, they look great with structure over the winter. Black-eyed Susan, they looked great over the winter. So perennials do offer winter interest, just not in the same way evergreens do. We have a mix here of, you know, Nepeta, catmint. This is the summer magic variety. We have a lot of Terra dropseed prairie grass, or prairie dropseed, the Terra variety of that grass. And then in the middle, I have a mix of some Egostachy, Blue Fortune, which that has a little bit more of a kind of harder stem, but it's a little bit younger. It's only about a year old. So I'm fine to push these over with the mower. We also have here some stockies. There's some lamb's ear, Helen von Stein. But you can see here are some of the bulbs I planted last fall are just beginning to come up. So I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna combat that, but we're gonna get this whole bed ready in a matter of minutes. So really my only mix of items I'm using here is an old push mower. It's probably 15 years old now. Actually, it's probably older than that by now. And this is my first line of defense, really. It has a self-mulching attachment, which means the chute to blow out grass is closed. And so it keeps everything underneath it and just circulates and keeps chopping up into smaller pieces and just pretty much drops it because it can't shoot it out. It keeps it a little bit cleaner, but it also is what I want to keep everything on the bed as much as I can. I do also have a shears. So especially in more mature beds, you know, whether it's Baptisia, Egostachy, as they get more mature, their stems become a little bit more trunk-like, stick-like, and sometimes I do go in and just give them a couple chops to break them down somewhat, so this then can go over them. Same with ornamental grasses. When they're young, no problem. Depending on the mower though and how strong it is, the bigger they get, you might want to chop them down and may not even be able to fully run over them, which is fine too. This mower, what I did do, it has an adjustable height, just like it would for grass. I set it up higher. And so that allows, usually I want it to be, it can even be 3-4 inches, just so it gets the majority of the debris. The rest usually breaks down and then allows for all that growth to come back out. Now I will also say, I am never one that shies away from if the perennials have come out quite a bit and I chop some of them down, I'm fine with that. You know, these are allium, these are catnip, these are hard, like hardy, really worthy plants. They're worthy, you know, they have a good soul. And they can take it. They're gonna grow right back. So if you get a little behind and don't get to it in time, I'm not worried if I chop them down a little bit further. It doesn't scare me. So what I'm gonna do first, because I have my blower here too so I can blow debris back on, I'm gonna get my mower going. And I'm just gonna start by showing you the process. I'll show you a close-up of what I'm doing. So before I really get into it, I'm gonna show you here with just a little quick run. My drip line is still down, and that's because I have the mower set high enough that I know I can glide over it. I've been doing this for years. I've done it in a lot of places. I'm not worried about it hitting it. Now, set it up high enough so it doesn't happen. So if you notice what we're doing here is, this is what it looks like before I go over it. After I go over it, it's exposing the underneath growth. Now sometimes, depending on how smashed down it is, because this last snow we had was heavy and wet, and it blew in all over, so it kind of pushed down everything. I may have to come back in, do some adjustments, either with my hand, just crinkle it up. But either way, I'm going to try to knock everything down. Now see any of the bulbs that are up? Back there, there's an allium that's coming up. I'm hoping I can just glide over that. I'll check when I get close. If I need to, I think I can set my mower up one more notch. So let's go in and take a closer look. Now, I do blow this all back into the bed when I'm done. Obviously some debris is gonna scatter, but if you look really closely, what I wanna show you is what it does to most of the foliage. And actually you can see it best right here on the gravel. It actually starts chopping it up into a really nice, really the beginnings of a mulch. Now, this could go in a compost pile, but why not just self-compost? So all this is gonna be left on the beds or blown back on from here. And you can see, so this is the Nepeta, and you can see all that growth that's coming. This is gonna continue protected if we do get cold temperatures, because we are still gonna have freezing temperatures. Of course we are at night, things like that. But this is also gonna allow it now to keep growing out as it wants to, make sure there's plenty of room for it. As you can see, these beds are designed to be like this. Not every bed can this work on. You know, the front of a house, the front of my house, I have boxwood, I have allium, I have stockies, but I like it to be a little bit more formal always and put together. So every so often I do put mulch still on it. And I only mow sometimes the stockies right in front. This bed, on the other hand, and all the beds in my backyard more, are designed to be so packed full that when they are growing, you don't even see the soil anymore. So I don't ever put mulch on again because it's self-mulching every year and composting into itself that it doesn't need hardwood mulch put on. I want these plants to naturalize, grow into each other, get bigger and fuller so these beds have no exposed soil and you only see the growth. That's why I plan these this way. So they're easy for me to clean up. They're easy to manage a lot of bed without a lot of care, and they look full and luscious and beautiful all throughout the season. I'm gonna do the whole other side now pretty quickly so you can see how easy this is. Now you see my cleanup too. I take the leaf blower and I just blow it, anything back on that's not on there. In the yard, I'm not as worried about it, obviously. You can see the discoloration from the plants that just sat there over the winter and their growth last summer. You know, in general, this is such an easy way to take care of a certain style of flower bed. Obviously, not all are gonna work with this method. But what I found over the years, I really started kind of enforcing this, I wanna say around 5-6 years ago. With the new bed I put in on my first pathway. and all the plants were, it's a little bit more naturalistic, but what I found for myself was putting in a path that was really structured and gave really clean, sharp lines allowed me to have more fun with some of my perennials and put them in big swaths, at least 5 or 7 or 9 of the same type every planting, and mixing them in. And you've seen these beds through the growing season, how full and beautiful they get. It allows me to have what feels like a little bit of chaos that sometimes perennials can give, but within defined lines. So I still have a lot of the structure I love, a lot of the kind of ornamentation I love in the garden, but a little bit more craziness too, which I like. I think Kip likes it too. So I now have, all I have left to do is, about a little over 100 feet of this long bed, but I did the short side the other day. And over here, the only difference is some of these are a little bit larger and more established. So I may need to knock down some of the grasses before I start cutting them. Honestly though, the other day I didn't on the ones I did. So I kind of see what the mower can handle. It's an old mower. It's been beat up, but it still works. That's the point. The one thing, if you want to think about plants that naturalize, I have Rudbeckia here, Goldsturm variety. And obviously it naturalizes through its seed heads, which I don't take off because I don't care if they naturalize. But another way to help slow that would be to remove them before you mow them and scatter them even more. So it's just something to think about if you're working with certain plants that you don't want to spread as much. I want these areas to spread, fill in, kind of compete with each other. I picked perennials that would do that. So that is cleaning up 101 here at Knollgate Farm. It's honestly easier than you think. I think what I try to show is I get a lot of questions on how do I take care of this myself. And I know it can look like a lot at certain times, but the way I've designed it, the way I've planned it, it really isn't a lot of work. I timed the mowing on the one side. It was 6.5 minutes of push mowing. And then I blew it out probably for, a minute or two. So in under 10 minutes, I'm able to clean up a really large flower bed that otherwise could take a long time. And also, it's great for the flower bed. It's gonna self-compost. It's gonna continue to feed the plants. It's just a great life cycle. Until next time, I'm gonna keep going. It's a beautiful day. The weather's great. A new season's gonna be coming up, and I have some big plans that I can't wait to share with you. A lot of new vegetable garden design happening, installation later this summer that you're gonna be a part of. So, lots going on.